Hey, what's up, guys? This is Benny. I just wanted to post a quick video because I've gotten 3 or 4 different direct messages today. The most recent one from Adam asking me how I put together my cash game lineup. So I'm just going to give you guys a quick overview of some of the things I look at when I do try to put together my cash game plays for NFL DFS. First off, you got to have a target that you're looking to get to. It's real easy to figure out what the target is. If you play on DraftKings, if you play on FanDuel, go back to your history, look at some of the recent games that you have been in, and figure out what the cash line is. Now, I always play 50-50s every week. We tell you guys all the time, single entry 50-50s are probably the way that you should be going most of the time. So if you look back at some of those 50-50s, you're going to see you need a score of probably somewhere around 125 on DraftKings to feel, like you have a chance. Maybe even a little bit higher, like a 130 or so would probably make me feel pretty comfortable. Over on FanDuel, you're probably looking for a score like somewhere around, I don't know, maybe 110 to 120 range, depending on the week. Now, those should be your goals. That should be what you're looking to try to get out of your cash game team. So you can do real simple math to figure it out. On FanDuel, you get a $60,000 salary cap. So if you're looking for 120 points, let's say, you're looking to get at least 2 points out of every 2 points per $1,000 of cost out of every player that you put on your roster. Over on DraftKings if you're looking for about 130 with a $50,000 salary cap, you're looking for a little more than 2.5 points per $1,000 of cost from every player on your roster. Now, that should be your guideline in cash games. Try to find guys who can get you over that hump. Now, on FanDuel, it's a little bit tougher because you don't always get those points out of your – well, actually, on both sites, you don't always get it out of your defense. But on FanDuel, you don't always get it out of your kicker either. So you might want to try to find guys who you think have basically 2 points per $1,000 of cost as a floor. Now, that's something that's really important. When you look at a player and you look at a guy that you want to use, you want to look at a guy's floor. When you're playing in a GPP tournament, you want to know what a guy's ceiling is. So you want to know, is this guy able to catch 100 yards? Is this guy able to get me 100 yards? Is he going to catch me 10 balls? Is he in such a good matchup that he can get me 2 touchdowns here today? But when you're looking at cash game, you're looking for consistency. So like a guy like Antonio Brown, for example, catches 8 or 9 balls a game. Well, on a site like DraftKings, that's 8 or 9 points. He gets 80 to 100 yards a game. Well, that's 8 to 13 points because remember, if he gets that 100 yards, he's going to get you the 3-point bonus. So you're looking at about 16 or 17 points right there out of him. So if you can get a guy like that for, basically you do the math, you do 2.5 times. If a guy like that is, $7,000 to $8,000, he's an automatic play for you. Now, if a guy like that is $10,000, while he may have the upside for a GPP tournament, he's probably not the greatest cash game play. Now, looking at some other guys in that same situation, look at a guy like Le'Veon Bell. Last year, he had 2,100 total yards in 16 games. So you're figuring he's going to get you probably about 130 total yards a game. So that's 13 points right there. He had 80 catches. So that means he's going to get you probably about 5 catches a game. So that's 18 points right there. And he scored 11 touchdowns in 16 games. So take half of what a touchdown would cost, which would be basically 6 points if you get a touchdown. So add in like 3 to 4 points onto that, and you wind up getting up to about 20, 21 points. Now at 7,500, if you're looking for 2.5 times, you want to get at least 17 to 18 points out of a guy like that. So if you have a guy who's going to be getting you, consistently getting you 20, 21 points as his average, and in order for him to pay off 2.5 times value on DraftKings, you would need him to get you about 17 or 18 points. Then he would be a good play. He would be somebody that you want to put in. Now, it works the same way for guys that are cheap. If you're looking at a guy like James Starks, who's only $3,000, if Eddie Lacy's not in a game this week and you only need 2.5 times out of Stark, you really only need him to get you about 7 or 8 points. Now, if you know he's going to get you 10 to 15 carries at a minimum this week and he can get you 3 or 4 yards a carry, well, that's 30 or 40 yards right there or 3 or 4 points. Remember, you only need about 8 points out of him, so that's halfway there right away. You also know he's going to get a couple catches in the passing game. So if he catches 2 more passes for another 20 yards or so, you're going to wind up with 4 or 5 more points from him, and that's going to give you at least 8 or 9 points or more than 2.5 times value. Now, if he gets you a touchdown, that's just gravy on top of it. But remember, we're not looking at his ceiling. We're not looking at, can he get me 100 yards and 5 catches and 30 yards in the receiving game and 2 touchdowns? We're looking at, at a minimum, what can we get out of this guy? So when you're looking at a cash game roster, you really want to look at volume. You want to look at guys who get a lot of catches, a lot of targets. You want to look at running backs who get a lot of touches, whether it's guys in the passing game or whether it's guys who get a lot of carries and are going to rack up the yards that way, because those are the things that are safe and certain that you can put in your roster. Now, different people choose to do it different ways. As I said to you guys before, I am not a big believer in paying up for quarterbacks in my cash games. I usually pay up for quarterbacks more often in my tournament rosters. In a cash game, I think you can find a guy who can get you some safe yardage. A guy like Tyrod Taylor, for example. Taylor is a guy who's going to get you 30 or 40 yards with his legs. So for a quarterback, that's 3 or 4 points right there. Even on a bad game, he's going to throw for maybe 150, 175 yards. So you're looking at another 6 or 7 points there, which would give him 10 or 11 points. And he's probably going to get you at least 1 touchdown. So with touchdowns through the air being the cheaper way to do it, that's probably going to get you up to about 15 points total with 1 4-point touchdown added to the other 10, 11 points that he had. So when Tyrod Taylor was only $5,000 on FanDuel and you only needed 10 points out of him, he was an amazing play. He was somebody that should have been in your roster every week. With 15 points being what he gets on average, if you need 2 points per $1,000 of cost on FanDuel, if Tyrod Taylor is less than $7,500, in any decent matchup that you think he's going to be able to get that 30 or 40 yards rushing, that 1 touchdown through the air, and the 150 yards passing, he's going to be a guy who you should definitely have in your roster. Again, for a cash game, you don't care if he's going to be the highest scoring quarterback overall in the week. You care, you care that he's going to be getting you enough points to get you over that cash line and that he's going to be safe enough that you're not going to make any mistakes. What you're going to see with a lot of rosters that you see in 50-50s is guys are going to pay up for some of the big, huge studs, hoping to get big games out of them, but you really don't always need to do that. What you need to make sure is from top to bottom in your roster, every guy that you put in there has a chance to get you that minimum value threshold that you need. Now, I don't want to make this a blanket statement. People always use the blanket statement of cash games, but cash games are created equal. You build rosters differently for a head-to-head than you do for a 50-50. You build rosters differently for like a 3-man contest than you would, for a 50-50 or a head-to-head. For a head-to-head, I usually like to use the guys who are some of the highest owned guys on the day and then mix in 1 or 2 plays that I like more than a guy who I think is one of the chalk guys on the day, a guy who I think other people are going to have that I think I could beat if I find somebody else or a different way to put a combination of 2 or 3 guys in there by fading some of the guys that I like the most in my head-to-heads. Excuse me, guys. I'm having a rough day today. But basically, that's the way that I go about building them. My 50-50 rosters, like I said, I look for that minimum amount of points that I need to get and try to put guys that can safely get me that minimum amount of points from the top of my roster to the bottom of my roster. When I'm playing in a head-to-head, I do try to go with some of the higher-owned guys on the week. You figure that the higher-owned guys are going to be highly owned by a lot of people that you're going up against in your head-to-heads. What you guys have to understand about head-to-heads is that there's a lot of people out there that are going to make stupid plays and stupid mistakes. As long as you're not making the same stupid mistakes that they are in your 50-50s or in your head-to-heads, you're going to have a good chance to cash at least some, if not most of them, because you got to grind it out over a long period of time. If you're going all in with all your money in cash games every week, eventually you're going to have a bad week. And if you want to make that percentage go up a little bit, there's some merit in doing that as well. If you stick to 10% or 15% of your bankroll that you're going to put in play. I actually play a little more than 10% of my bankroll in NFL because it is only 1 day a week, unlike baseball, where I was playing 6 to 8% of my bankroll a day. I do go closer to 15 to 20% of my bankroll when I play NFL, mostly because I like to play a few more GPPs, and I want to make sure I have enough cash games to try to cover the cost of those GPPs in case I fall flat on my face, like I did last week. In a week like this where I have some really good plays and guys that I really like, and I think I'm going to do a lot better. This way, if I'm able to cash at 60 or 70% of my cash games, I'm also going to be able to hopefully cash in some of those GPPs and make up all the money that I lost last week, plus a little bit more this week. So that's just my thoughts on how I build my cash game rosters. I got 4 or 5 direct messages from guys on the site asking me how to do it. So I figured rather than answer each one of you with this long answer individually, I'd put a little video together and let everybody in the community kind of see it. I'm going to post this video in the NFL forum. If you guys do happen to see this video and you have stuff that you want to add to what I said, please feel free to do so. The idea of this site is we're trying to teach everybody how to, basically how to get over that hump and how to make some money playing daily fantasy. So by all means, feel free to add some things in there. We can start a discussion on it. And, hopefully we can help everybody get a little bit better at building cash games and bring in some more cash. This way we have more money to take some shots at some of the big GPPs and making a big score. So that's my ideas on cash games. Thanks, guys, for listening. And as always, if you have any questions, you can always hit me up here on RotoCurve or find me over on Twitter at BennyR11. Thank you.